Hello students, welcome to EPG Pathshala. I am Professor Kulbhushan Chandel from Himachal Pradesh University, Shimla. Today we are going to talk on module Burke-Litwin Causal Model of Performance and Change from paper Organizational Change and Development. Let me discuss that what we are going to learn from this module. We will learn about the Burke-Litwin model in detail. At the Harvard Business School, Litwin was influenced by the works of Atkinson's. A need theorist, McClelland believed that human needs could be aroused by manipulating the environment. McClelland showed that such need should be enhanced and increased. Litwin demonstrated this phenomenon organizationally and from the standpoint of leadership. He hypothesized that different styles of leadership could create different organizational climates that would appeal to different motives or needs. Litwin created 3 separate organizations led by different leaders, one being a power-oriented leader to arouse followers' need for power. Second, being achievement-oriented leaders having a strong task force focus with challenging goals. And third, being an affiliation-oriented leader to arouse leadership and interdependent needs. He showed that performance and morale differed significantly across the 3 laboratories organizations, with the achievement leaders having both the highest performance and the highest morale. He defined organizational change as a set of psychological principles of a work environment that are based on the collective perceptions of the people in that environment. The nature of a climate is determined by a number of organizational variables, not just management or leadership approach. Also, it should be noted that the importance of this early research and theory development regarding organizational change was the cause-effect position that Litwin took the linkage of psychological and organizational variables. In other words, this kind of thinking and research set the stage for how we developed the Burke-Litwin model. One final point is that there is overlap between climate and culture, and they have distinguished them. Culture is defined in terms of population that individuals have of how their local work unit is managed and how effectively they and their day-to-day colleagues work together on the job. The level of analysis for culture is the organization climate, which is affected by the culture and people's perceptions. Burke-Litwin model. The Burke-Litwin model has its roots in the organizational climate studies conducted by Litwin and his colleagues during the 60s. Further, development of the model occurs until late 70s and 80s. When Burke-Litwin began their collective work in the arena of the organizational change consultants at the British Airways, the model as visualized today actually emerged from practice, which is a consequence of trying to understand more about how to bring about the change at the organization. The organization change at British Airways was proposed. The reasons were not effective working of the airways, was managed in the bureaucratically and in top-down manner. There were deficits in the airways. Thus, for the survival, the airways had to adapt changes. The change to be adopted in the British Airways took time and was also dynamic and drastic, which was deemed to be successful by the variety of measures and independent sources. The model conforms to be open system way of thinking in which external environment serves as the input dimensions and the individual and organizational performance box serve as the output dimension. For completing this picture, the feedback loop connects the input with the output. The feedback serves as organizational outcome. Products and services affect the external environment, such as customer satisfaction, and that forces in the external environment which can affect performance directly. For example, a change in the government regulations. The model represents the primary considerations for organizational understanding and analysis. The arrows connecting the boxes are the open system principle of multiple impacts, that is, change in any category which affects all the remaining boxes. The figure depicts that some of the more important linkages, rather than attempting to show every possible connection, the clutter of displaying of connections would rather discourage. Transformational and transactional dimensions. According to this model, the key to understanding change is the top half compared with the bottom half. James McGregor Burns in 1978 gave distinction between two primary forms of leadership, that is, transformational and transactional. Burns classified the transformational leaders as those who bring change and they never leave the situation the way they found it, and the situation, whether it is organization, community, or nation, will be different as consequence of this kind of leadership. He classified the transactional leaders as those who sees leaders, followers, relationship as just the transaction. If you do such and such for me, I'll see that you get rewarded. This later form of leadership may involve the change, but not the change which is transformational in nature. Transactional leaders are more interested in maintaining the status quo, but if the change is necessary, they would argue that it should be gradual and evolutionary. Transformational factors. It includes external environment, organizational culture, individual and organizational performance, and mission and strategy, and it has to be just seen in the backdrop of the leadership. The top half of the model, external environment, mission and strategy, leadership and culture, are referred to as transformational factor. Changes in these boxes are likely to be caused by the direct interaction with the external environmental forces and will as a consequence require significantly new behavior from organizational members. This also displays the transformational factors. It is similar to the Burns conception of transformational factors. Organizational dimensions means that the entire organization or system is affected and that the change is discontinuous in nature, which affect the structure of the system and requires visionary leadership. Transactional forces, these are management practices, structure, system, work input, then the motivation, task requirements, individual and organizational performances, individual needs. Collectively, they just make transactional forces. The remaining boxes of the organizational dimensions are known as transactional factors. These dimensions build on the original thinking and climate research of the Litwin and his colleagues. These factors concern more of the day-to-day operations of the organization and with respect to the change. The continuous improvements, evolutionary and selective terms are used. We can differentiate the transformational and transactional dimensions with the help of various factors like the external environment, the forces or the variables outside the organization that influence the organizational performance. These forces include variables such as customer behavior and satisfaction, market conditions, political circumstances, governmental regulations, financial and economic conditions of the market, and changing technology. Then the mission and strategy. Briefly, mission concerns what the organization is all about, its purpose and its primary goals. The organization strategy concerns how or implementation, how the mission is to be accomplished. The term vision has emerged as a popular organizational and leadership concept. Vision is more associated with the leadership category in the model. Mission is the ultimate purpose. It is the statement of mission which is carefully crafted. Mission is tied with the competencies of the organization. Vision addresses the future and concerned aspirations and desired outcomes. Leadership. This category is associated with the behavior of senior executives, and so leadership is exercised throughout the organization. In any case, the primary association is with providing direction, whether it comes from the chief executive officer or from a first-line supervisor and acting as a role model. As in the model, the leadership and management are in different boxes. There is no overlap between the two. Leadership is about vision, change, using one's individual intuitions, persuasive and presentation skills, rewarding personal praise, and providing opportunities to develop new skills. Management is about role task accomplishment, setting objectives, and using organizations' resources efficiently and effectively. Culture. Culture means the way we do things around here and the manner in which these norms and values are considered and communicated. The way means norm we conform to and the values we believe in. Culture embodies rules that we follow with explicit and implicit. Explicit rules, for example, are what the human resource manual states about the issues such as mode of dress or the code of dress, hours of work. Implicit rules which are followed but never discussed, such as informal rules of behavior. These are not written down, but they govern the organization. Then the structure. Structure of the organization chart, the diagram of boxes with tiles and people's names in them that are connected with the lines of connections. With respect to the definitional word, structures means the arrangement of the organizational functions such as accounting, manufacturing, human resource management, etc., and operational units such as customer satisfaction that signify the level of responsibility, decision making, power, and lines of communication and relationship that leads to implementation of the organization's mission, goals, and strategies. In the management practices, this category addresses what managers do each workday to carry out organization's strategy. Practices refers to the set of specific behavior such as to encourage direct reports and associates to take initiatives regarding the innovative approaches to various tasks and projects. Then the climate. Climate is the collection of the perceptions of the members within same work unit. These perceptions include how well they are managed, how clear they are about what is expected from them in workplace, how they feel their performance is recognized, how involved they are in decision making, and how much support they feel more fellow work unit members, and finally, how effectively they believe that they work with other units in the organizations. Then the systems. Here we are concerned about the policies and procedures that are designed to help and support organizational members with their jobs and role responsibilities. This category is akin to one of the 6 boxes of Beaver's model, the one labeled helpful mechanism. The subcategories such as management information system, organization's reward system, performance appraisal system in human resource allocation. In other words, the systems category within the model covers these categories. Task requirements and individual skills. The short version of this category is job person match. The degree to which there is congruence between the requirements of one's job's role and responsibilities and the knowledge, skill, and ability of the individuals holding the job. Individual needs and values. This is the category on the other side of the motivation box from task requirements and individual skills and abilities. It means that these two categories influence the motivation significantly. Both boxes have to do with the congruence. In the later case, needs and values concern the extent to which one's needs are met on the job, such as the need for achievement and the degree to which there is congruence between what the individual organizational members believe is important and what the organization stands for, such as its purpose, values, and how people are in and out of the organizations are treated. Then the motivation. With respect to the workplace, the need to achieve, to affiliate with others, and perhaps to have a need for power. These aroused feelings are not random but are directed towards the goals when reached will help in satisfying our needs, and these needs will persist until some degree of satisfaction has been attained. A primary function of the organizational leaders and managers is to establish the proper goals that are organizationally important and will respond to the individual needs for ends such as achievements, meaningful work, autonomy on job, recognition, and so on. And then finally, it is the organizational performance. To be more complete, we should note that the group or work unit should be added to the description of the model. It refers to the outcomes and results of throughput activities that in turn are responses to the external environment with performance depending upon new performance is defined and measures. The external environment directly affect the performance. Generally, the performance is measured by the productivity, customer satisfaction, quality of product and service, and so on. Support for model's validity. It includes three factors: the transactional factors, transformational factors, and influence of external environment. Transformational factors. Mission and strategy, leadership and culture are the transformational factors that immediately respond to the external environment. Mission and strategy are together because concepts concerns directions, goals, and objectives of the organizations and its various units, with mission being what and strategy the how. The order of mission then strategy is important for the reasons of common sense. As to influence of strategy, three additional studies they are conducted. Chandler's 1962 study demonstrated that the importance of strategy preceding structure, that is, the more successful companies in a given industry determined strategy before designing or changing the internal organizational structure. Chandler's criterion for success was a company's financial performance. In the model, strategy carries more weight than structure. More recent, a study of 262 large companies over a span of 28 years showed that the reciprocal relationship between strategy and structure. However, the results support the hierarchical relationship between the two, strategy and structure. Strategy is more important determinant of structure than structure is of strategy. A third study, a meta-analytical analysis by Miller and Cardinal in 1994 of previously published studies, suggested that the strategic planning positively affects the performance. As noted regarding the leadership factors, there is ample evidence that senior executives in leadership positions influence organizational performance. Thus, the leadership box precedes the management practices category in the model. The remaining boxes in the model leading to performance and change are in transactional domain. These categories are structure, system, management practices, work unit climate, individual needs and values, task requirements, and individual skills and abilities and motivation. When these dimensions are compared with transformational factors, the organizational dimensions and activities that are categorized as more day-to-day operations, incremental regarding change, and are more related to the work unit climate than to background culture. With respect to structure, Joyce and Solisem 1984 showed that his category in the model had a direct impact on climate, as did management practices. In earlier study by Schneider and Snyder in 1975 also demonstrated the same. While covering the history of this model, it was noted that the work of Litwin and his colleague has demonstrated the impact of climate on motivation and in turn performance. Motivation in the model can perhaps be best understood as intervening variable. A premise of the model is that the boxes of tasks requirements and individual skills and ability and individual needs and values significantly influence motivation. If the job and the person do not match well, motivation will suffer. Finally, when changing the transformational factor in the model, the consequent organization change is more likely to be discontinuous and affect the deep structure of the total system. Changing the transactional factor is more likely to result in the continuous improvement, incremental, and evolutionary organization change. Let's summarize what we have learned from this module. We have learned that from Harvard Business School, how the Litwin was influenced by the works of Atkinson's, a need theorist. McClellan believed that human needs could be aroused by manipulating the environment. We came to know that McClellan showed that such needs should be enhanced and increased. Litwin later on demonstrated this phenomena organizationally and from the leadership point of view. He hypothesized that different styles of leadership can be created in the different organizational climate that would appeal to different motives or needs. Litwin created 3 separate organizations which were led by different leaders. One being a power-oriented leader to arouse the followers, means the need of powers. And second being achievement-oriented leaders, in which they were having the strong task focus with challenging goals. And third, being an affiliation-oriented leaders to arouse relationship and interdependent needs. He also showed that performance and morale differed significantly across the 3 organizational laboratories which he has taken for the practical purpose, with the achievement leaders having both the highest performance and the highest morale. He defined organizational climate as a set of psychological principles of a work environment that are based on the collective perceptions of the people in that environment. The nature of a climate is determined by a number of organizational variables, not just management or leadership approach. The Burke-Litwin model has its roots in the organizational climate studies conducted by Litwin and his colleagues during 1960s. The model conforms to the open system way of thinking in which the external environment serves as the input dimensions and individual and organizational performance box serve as the output dimension. According to this model, the key to understanding the change is the top half compared with the bottom half. James McGregor Byrne in 1978 gave distinction between 2 primary forms of leadership, that is transformational and transactional. Burns later on classified the transformational leaders as those who bring change and they never leave the situation the way they found it and the situation, whether it is organization, community, or nation. It will be different as a consequence of this kind of leadership. He further classified the transactional leaders as those who see leaders-follower relationships as just the transaction. If you do such and such for me, I will see that you get rewarded. This later form of leadership may involve the change, but not the change which is transformational in nature. Transactional leaders are more interested in maintaining the status quo, but if the change is necessary, they would argue that it should be gradual and evolutionary. This model provides an open system theory in action and provides a way of thinking about the planned organization change. Thank you.